welcome back to my channel. I am Amber from Amber's Books and More, and today I have the finally fall book tag. This tag was created by Tall Tales here on YouTube. I will go ahead and leave the original video link down below, as well as all of the questions. Yeah, so I'm doing this now in October, even though technically it's already been fall, but here in Texas it is just now finally starting to feel like fall. So let's just jump right in and get started. This tag only has about 10 questions. I'm going to go ahead and give it 2 books for each answer because mostly, not that it was short, but mostly because I can't seem to stop myself from overachieving. So let's go into question number 1. Question number 1 is, in fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book that has a vivid settings. So the first book I'm going to give for that answer is the 1000th Floor series by Katharine McGee. So this is a series that is about a futuristic New York City where they have built these 1000-floor towers in different cities. They have some in New York and Dubai and so on. But the story mostly takes place in New York City. There is one book that has more from Dubai in it. But the setting is so vividly real, and it feels like present day with just a little something extra. So you can really get the feel of how New York would be if it had this 1000th floor tower just stuck in the middle of it that was towering over everything else, that went up into the clouds, and you know, it just was so vivid. And I absolutely loved this series, and I recommend it to anybody that is getting started with sci-fi. So the second book for that question I'm going to say is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. So this takes place mostly in a town called Weep that is not of this world. This definitely takes place in another world. It's very much fantasy. But the town of Weep has this like citadel that is just like floating with these half-god children. And the entire series and the setting and the way that Laini Taylor weaves her words together is just so magical and so beautiful and lyrical, and this absolutely has one of the most vivid settings. I could see it still, even a year after reading this book, in my head, and just picture what it must be like to live in a place like this. So definitely check this one out if you haven't yet, because it's awesome. Okay, question number 2 is, nature is beautiful but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written but also deals with a really heavy topic like grief or loss. So this is actually one of my most favorite genres in the contemporary field, is ones that deal with heavy topics. So I actually have 3 answers to this, so I have 3 very different answers. So let's just start pulling those out, shall we? So the first one is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This is a relatively short book. I believe it is considered a middle grade. It is about a boy that is dealing with the fact that his mother has cancer, and he suddenly sees this huge tree come to life outside of his window, and it starts taking him on these journeys. And the edition I have here actually is illustrated, and it has some really beautiful illustrations in this. Just the style of art is something that is breathtakingly beautiful, but yet breathtakingly heart-wrenching as well. You see here, this is kind of like the night sky with the tree monster. This one was a quick read, but it definitely is about a very heavy topic, and I loved it. The second book I have for this answer is actually The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. This is a magical realism book. This was also part of my magical realism book recommendation series. If you haven't seen that, I will definitely leave it linked up above for you. This is about a girl whose mother commits suicide, and she goes to Taiwan, which is where her mother grew up, and she goes to meet her grandparents that she's never met, and she believes that her mother has turned into a bird. And it's kind of dealing with the grief of her having lost her mother to suicide, which is different than just losing your mother. Losing your mother to suicide makes you feel it's a completely different kind of grief, and this definitely is a heavy topic, but this book is so magically written that it's just beautiful in its grief, if that makes sense. So the third book I have for this one question is going to be The Serpent King by Jeff Zentner. So this is definitely a little bit different. So both of those deal very highly with grief. This does deal with griefs in a way, but it's more about just these kids that not all have a great life. There is definitely, you know, some parents that aren't great in this, and there's definitely really, really hard topics for these kids. Like, there's hard things these kids have to deal with, but it is a beautiful story about their friendship, and I highly recommend this one. And it is all contemporary. Like, those other two have more magical elements to them, but this one is definitely fully contemporary if you don't like books with magical elements in them. Okay, so question number 3 is, fall is back to school season. Share a nonfiction book that taught you something new. So I'm not in school anymore, so I don't really read much nonfiction, and especially ones that would teach me. But I have pulled 2 poetry collections that I think that are beautifully done and kind of count as nonfiction. So let me just show you those. So the first one is Letters from Maine by May Sarton. This is poetry done by a woman that had a brief love affair with another woman way back in, I think, like the 30s or 40s, and she wrote this when she was a little bit older, or she at least put it together. I think she wrote the poetry itself when she was in the middle of the romance. So some of these are from during the romance and some are from after the romance had ended, and this one is a short one, but they are just so, they're just really good. And I think that if you enjoy poetry, this one, though it is a little bit older, this author has actually passed away, I believe, but this is definitely one that could teach you something about how the world was in a different time, when maybe it wasn't quite so normalized for a woman to have a lesbian love affair and to be a lesbian. And I think that just the way that she uses words is really, really done well in this little tiny book. So the next one is technically a collection of short stories or flash fiction and poetry, but it is Shoot Down the Windy Bird by Julie Xantopoulos. Julie is a booktuber here on BookTube called Pages and Pens. I'm sure you've heard of her. This is her collection that she put out a few years ago. These are little snippets of stories, so the actual flash fiction is of course fiction, but the poems in here are very raw and very consuming, and you can feel exactly what she was feeling as she wrote the poetry. So this is definitely one that I think that everyone should check out. Okay. Question number 4 is, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people we love. Name a fictional family, household, friend group that you would like to be a part of. Now, I love books that have found family, and I love books that have actual family. So this one was really fun to find, but I do have 2 books for this one. So the first one is going to be the Diviners series by Libba Bray. So this is a found family, for sure, a friend group. And I think it's okay, so let's go back. So this is a story set in the 1920s in New York City, and it is a group of people that are diviners. They have special powers, like, you know, there's one that can read minds, and there's one that can walk in dreams and things like that. So already you have 1920s New York City, you have paranormal activities happening, and this group of people come together and just become family, and it's absolutely beautiful, and I wish I was a part of them so much. Evie and just everybody, I love them. I love these books. If you haven't read them, what are you waiting for? The next one I have for that question is kind of more a found family and real family kind of come together to make a new group, and that is Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno. So there are 2 twin sisters in here and their mother that I absolutely love, but then there's also some new found family that is added to this group and on this small island, and they're just the cutest, and I love them, and I think that you should read this. Okay, question number 5 is, the colorful leaves are piling on the ground. Show us a pile of fall colored spines. So this one was actually fun because I actually have a lot more red and yellow spines than I thought I did, but it was kind of hard finding orange. But this is what I ended up finding. So I have some red into orange and then into yellow. And I think that these look really pretty together, actually. I love fall colors. I could probably add brown if I looked and found some, but It was hard finding the middle orange because like Illuminate is such a vibrant orange. But this, oh, this is what I have. Okay, number 6 is Fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein someone is telling a story. I have 2 for this as well. The first one I do not have a physical copy of, so I will put a picture here, but it is The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. So this entire story is a story that is being told to us by death about a girl that steals books. Intrigued? You should read it. The second one that I have for that answer is actually going to be The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a story about an ex-Hollywood starlet that in like her twilight years decides that she wants to tell the story of her 7 husbands, but she has to tell it to a certain person, and that person works for like a magazine or newspaper, and so they go and they start hearing the story. So pieces of this are what's happening today, but most of the story is the story that she's telling, and this was surprisingly, it surprised me in so many ways, and it was so good. So I definitely recommend this one if you like those types of stories. And by the way, Evelyn Hugo is totally a real person. I don't know who she actually is in real life, but like I wanted to find her movies that she referenced in this, and I'm sad that I can't watch them because they sound so good. Number 7 is The Nights Are Getting Darker. Share a dark, creepy read. Now we are really getting into my territory here. Of course I have 2 books. The first one I'm almost sick of talking about it. I've been talking about it so much in my recent videos, but it is Sadie by Courtney Summers. So this is definitely dark and twisty, and it's like a YA thriller, and I think that you should definitely pick this one up. It is so good. That's all I'm gonna say about it. If you want to know more about it, go back to my wrap up for September where I read it and I talked more about it. It's really good. The second one I have for that is Bird Box by Josh Malerman. This is a book I wanted to read for a long time. I heard such good things about it. So this is basically a story about this town, or actually it's the world. So it's kind of post-apocalyptic, kind of, but not really. So there's these things that have shown up. We don't know what they are. We just know that whenever someone sees them, they then kill themselves. Why? No idea. So this story is about this woman that has trained herself and her kids to not look outside. And it's just her story of how she tries to escape. And it's creepy and it's wonderfully fall, and I think that it's so good. It's not as scary as I thought it was going to be, so this is definitely something that I think, Julie, that you could read. But it is so good. I really enjoyed this. It is perfect for this time of year. Okay, number 8 is The Days Are Getting Colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day. This one was hard because I don't read a lot of short books, but I do have 2 that I picked. So the first one is definitely got to be the Every Heart a Doorway series by Shauna Maguire. These books are so good. They're so short. They're like they're not even 200 pages. They're novellas. They're wonderful. They're about these kids that go through portal fantasies, and then this is what happens when they come back and they can't cope with being back in the real world, and they go to the school that helps them. And this is basically a setup in the first book, and then books thereon kind of start telling the story of each individual kids, like what they went through in their portal world, and it's so good. You just need to read these. So the next one is kind of cheating because it's not super short, but it is a super quick read, and that is Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. This is their newest release. This is about 2 friends that start setting each other up on blind dates and doing kind of like a double blind date thing, and of course it doesn't stay that way, so you definitely should pick this one up. And it's just fun, it is heartwarming, it is cute, and it's just really quick and easy to read. Number 9, fall. Luckily, it's my favorite season, is what it has in parentheses, but I'm just going to say it because luckily it is my favorite time of season as well. Returns every year. Name an old favorite you'd like to return to soon. Now I have a lot of those, but I did narrow it down to 2. The first one is going to be The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I read this as soon as it came out. last year around this time. So it's been over a year. I have since gone to a book signing where Angie was there and she signed and personalized my first edition copy. And I want to get back to this one. The movie comes out next week, I believe, and I want to read this again. I'll probably wait until after I watch the movie to reread it because I want to experience the movie for itself and not compare it back to the book as much. And since it's been so long since I read it, that's easier to do. So this is one. And now the next one is cheating a little bit because I actually already have plans to reread it, and that is The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. I am actually buddy reading this one next week. Check out the Twitter link below to see the breakdown of pages. It's only going to be like a 3 or 4 day read because it reads so quickly. But this has definitely been one of my favorites for a while now since I read it, and I read it early in the year, I believe. So I love it. It's great. It's witchy. It's good. Read it with us. Hashtag BRWickedDeep on Twitter. Look down below for the info and read it because I'm going to reread this one really soon. Number 10 is fall is the perfect time for cozy reading night. Share your favorite cozy reading accessories. So here's the thing. I love the cold, and so I don't really have cozy reading accessories. I did bring the blanket that I use when I read on the couch when it's cold. It is like this blue, fuzzy, really soft. It's really soft and it's fuzzy, and I absolutely love it. I got this at Home Goods, I believe. Okay, the final question is number 11, spread the autumn appreciation and tag some people. So I don't like tagging people, so if you're watching and you have not done this tag and you want to do it, you are officially tagged to do this, so definitely do it. I don't know. Either way, that's all I have for you today. So until next time, have a great day wherever you are, and I love you. Bye.